In today's video, we're going to be going over all of the new PlayStation 4 game releases of the week, and as I mentioned last week, it's going to be packed in terms of game releases. Week after week, we've got a lot of big games, and this week is no different. We've got a lot of exciting titles to go over, but outside of that, we're also going to be looking at a very interesting feature that's going to be introduced in Catherine Full Body Edition. Essentially, it's going to make it so you can just enjoy the story if you'd like to and skip through all of the puzzles if you're not a fan of that. This story is, of course, a big part of Catherine, but I thought the gameplay was great as well, so I would recommend you to not utilize this mode, but I'll take a look at it anyway. And also, another major Japanese title coming to the West this year is Project Judge, the latest game from the guys that did Yakuza. And Project Judge will feature no alterations when it comes over stateside, outside of the fact that it will be dubbed over. More on that at the end of this video. First up, I want to go over all of the new PS4 game releases this week, and again, it is a packed week of exciting releases. Kicking things off, I definitely want to talk about the Resident Evil 2 Remake. This is a game that so many of us have wanted for quite a while. It was announced a while ago, but then it went MIA, then it reappeared at E3 last year, and it has looked marvelous ever since. The gameplay looks great visually, it looks stunning, and we just played the one-shot demo, and that was tremendous. Yes, you could beat it rather quickly if you knew the layout of Resident Evil 2, and if you are familiar with RE2, this is probably a game you're going to be able to complete rather quickly. But if you're going into it looking to re-experience Resident Evil 2, or you're experiencing it for the first time, it's gonna be a relatively lengthy experience. We're talking 10 to 15 hours, which for a Resident Evil game, it's not all too bad, although for $60 I could see that putting some people off. However, this is a case of quality over quantity. Expect all of the content that is in the RE2 remake to be of very high quality. And the Resident Evil 2 Remake will be hitting the PS4 on January 25th. So while the Resident Evil 2 Remake is without a doubt the biggest game release of this week, there are a lot of other exciting smaller titles, one being the Hong Kong Massacre. The Hong Kong Massacre is another game that we've known about for quite a bit, but it's been on and off as far as how much we've seen information of the game, and then earlier this month it dropped that the game will be releasing on January 22nd, kinda out of nowhere, but it is looking fantastic. What is the game? It's a fast-paced top-down shooter inspired by classic movies. The game puts you at the center of a hard-boiled revenge story filled with brutal cinematic shootouts and vivid underworld locations. A lot of gamers have compared the Hong Kong Massacre to Hotline Miami and Max Payne. Max Payne because it does have a slowdown mechanic, and everything we've seen of the game has looked excellent thus far, and I'm hoping for the best when the Hong Kong Massacre releases on January 22nd. Moving on from that, we have JackQuest Tale of the Sword. JackQuest Tale of the Sword pits you on one fateful night when young Jack takes the beautiful Nara for a walk in the woods. His love is kidnapped by the villainous Orc Korg. Forced to mount a rescue, Jack plunges into Korg's underground base where he happens upon a strange blade that becomes an unlikely ally. Alright, so as far as premise goes, this isn't the most interesting game in the world, but as far as presentation and gameplay goes, hey, this looks to be a pretty cool game filled with environmental puzzles. You'll be able to discover power-ups, collect weapons, and challenge subterranean foes, including massive bosses. We'll see how the game turns out as JackQuest Tale of the Sword drops on January 24th. Moving on from that, we have FutureGrind. Now, FutureGrind, right away when you look at it, this is a game that's very reminiscent of the Trials titles, and of course, we're gonna get a Trials title later this year. But FutureGrind is coming out a little bit earlier, so it's gonna beat Trials to the punch, and it has you nail the perfect line in the future's most challenging stunt sport. Grab your bike and hit the rails in a stylish stunt racer all about tricks, skill, and speed. Chain together huge combos on tracks made of floating rails, but watch out, touch the rail of the wrong color and you'll explode. So it does have some interesting mechanics going on for it. We'll see how it turns out. FutureGrind drops on January 22nd. Next up is a pretty interesting multiplayer title in Switchblade. Switchblade features a new sport called War. It's an arena-based 5v5 vehicle action game that combines high-octane combat with ever-shifting selection of strategic choices. You'll be able to seamlessly switch between heavily armed high-tech vehicles at any time to create endless tactical choices in a frantic 5v5 battle to take down the opposition's towers and claim victory. Now, the one area of skepticism I have to have with Switchblade is the fact because it is a multiplayer-centric title, I just don't know how this game is going to resonate with the mainstream audience, and I don't know the longevity it's going to have in place. And being a 5v5 title, that's a little worrisome. However, the game itself looks pretty good. It's been in early access on PC for quite a while, received pretty well over there, but again, not a lot of people are playing it. Maybe after it sees its full release and it sees a release on the PlayStation 4, it'll increase in popularity. We'll find out as Switchblade hits the PS4 on January 22nd. Moving on from that, we have Wandersong. Wandersong looks to be one of the most charming games of the year. It's a side-scrolling puzzle and adventure game that uses music as a puzzle-solving mechanic. You can sing to cause events to occur in the environment around you. You use a colored song wheel with 8 directions, each representing musical notes spanning an octave. which is then controlled by the controller. Certain challenges in the game involve the player matching notes or tunes with a non-player character's song, similar to a typical rhythm game. Wandersong also looks like a budget title on the surface, but it's touting to be around 14 to 15 hours in length, so it's a relatively lengthy experience given the fact it is probably going to be released at a cheaper price point. Wandersong hits the PS4 on January 22nd. Moving on from that, we're finally going to see the release of the Kingdom Hearts VR experience. This has seen a couple of delays, but the KH VR experience will finally be dropping, and this is going to be great for those of you that want to get up to speed with Kingdom Hearts. This takes you through a lot of the iconic Kingdom Hearts moments with some great music, all in VR. It's going to be a relatively short experience, but it's going to be absolutely free as the Kingdom Hearts VR experience hits the PS4 on January 23rd. And lastly, we have one more PSVR title, A Fisherman's Tale. A Fisherman's Tale has you bend and twist reality. It's a mind-bending VR puzzle adventure game in which being turned upside down and inside out is not merely a play on words. You play as Bob, a tiny fisherman puppet. You live alone in your tiny cabin, but you're oblivious to the world outside. When your radio broadcasts a storm alert, you have to get to the top of the lighthouse and turn on the light. But as you try to leave your cabin, with the help of some uncanny sidekicks, you realize what's waiting outside is not at all what you expected. I feel like PlayStation VR and these mysterious games always go together. We've seen a lot of games like this, but A Fisherman's Tale looks pretty interesting. It's hitting the PSVR on January 22nd. So those are all of the new PlayStation 4 game releases this week. I know all of you have all your attention on Resident Evil 2 Remake, but a couple of other interesting titles as well, like the Hong Kong Massacre. Wandersong I think could be really good, and for those of you with PSVR, give Kingdom Hearts VR experience a look, revisit Kingdom Hearts, and A Fisherman's Tale could be something interesting. Moving on from that, we also have to talk about a couple of other things real quickly. Catherine Full Body Edition will be hitting the PlayStation 4 this year. We know that the Japanese release will be happening in February. Still don't have an exact Western release, but I imagine it'll happen sometime later, and it'll be introducing a safety mode. This is kind of cool for those of you that hated the puzzles in Catherine and you just want to go into the story, experience the new character, all that kind of stuff. But here's Gamatu's translation of Atlas's explanation of the safety mode in Catherine Full Body. Quote, in safety mode, you can use the skip feature to skip stages you have not cleared with a press of a button and solely enjoy the event scenes. For players who want to see the puzzles, both safety and easy modes have an autoplay feature where Vincent moves on his own during the action puzzle segments. So you can completely fly by through the puzzles, you can completely skip through it. You don't even have to play it on easy mode where it's a breeze. You could literally just skip through all of the puzzles and watch cutscene after cutscene. I wouldn't recommend doing that because I thought Catherine had some very interesting puzzle mechanics, and coming from someone that's not a big fan of puzzle games, I found it thoroughly enjoyable. So if you're going into Catherine for the first time, if you've heard it's very good on its story, I would still recommend you to actually play through all of the gameplay segments because I thought those were really well done as well. And lastly, speaking of Japanese games, Judgment is another one of the major Japanese titles that will be hitting the Western market this year. It's being done by the Yakuza team, and best of all, outside of the English dub, none of the content will be changed. Specifically, Koji Yoshida said this about Judgment coming west. Quote, there are no changes to the game's content in the Western version. The only differences are how we're recording an English dub, and all of the lip synchronization is being remade to fit it. That's awesome that they're also doing all of the lip synchronization. We've seen a lot of Japanese titles come west and they don't redo that. It's a little bit jarring. You can get past it because at this point, with a lot of the lower budget Japanese titles, we've become accustomed to it. But the bigger budget titles, like a lot of the Final Fantasy games, you do see the lip synchronization redone, and it's just a world of difference, and it's so great to see when games can actually pull it off. With Judgment, it's great to see that they will be doing that, and hopefully with this title, having an English dub, having the technical capabilities that it does, I really hope that this game resonates more with the Western market than the Yakuza games did. Yakuza has been seen by a segment of the Western audience, but it's not gotten the popularity that I think it deserves. I think it could be a completely different story with Judgment. We'll find out as the game will drop later this year. And that's gonna conclude this video. Again, we've got a lot of major PlayStation 4 game releases this week. Resident Evil 2 Remake, the Hong Kong Massacre, Wandersong, Fisherman's Tale, a lot to sink your teeth into. For those of you looking forward to Catherine Full Body and only want to play through the story, you can check out the safety mode. Wouldn't recommend it for newcomers, but hey, nice of them to add it. And Judgment will have no changes in content when it hits the Western market, outside of the fact that the lip synchronization will be redone to fit the English dub. That is awesome to hear, and that's gonna conclude this video. Sound off with all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching, and goodbye. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you're already subscribed, do us a favor and hit the bell icon. This way you'll be notified whenever we post a new video. That's the best way to keep up with all of our uploads, and we usually try to upload 2 videos a day. And with the bell icon hit, you'll be notified whenever we do upload a video. As always, thanks for watching.